Have you ever been at work and just had that feeling like, this doesn't seem right? You're definitely not alone. And what's more important is that you have a legal safety toolkit ready to go. Today, we're going to open that toolkit up and look at the 3 fundamental safety rights that every single worker in Alberta has. So, let's get right into it.
Okay, so just imagine this for a second. You're on the job and you spot something that gives you pause. Maybe it's a frayed electrical cable, or a guardrail that's missing, or maybe a coworker isn't using the right safety gear. It's a real situation that a lot of us have been in, right? Well, what you choose to do next is super important. And knowing your rights is basically your guide for what to do in those exact moments. And that's exactly where this whole idea of a safety toolkit comes from. Don't think of the law as some dense, boring rulebook. Instead, think of it like a set of 3 really powerful tools that are designed specifically to protect you and everyone you work with. And these aren't just good ideas or suggestions, they are your legal rights.
So here's what we're going to cover. First, we'll talk about the foundation of these rights. Then, we'll dive into each of the 3 tools in your kit: the right to know, the right to participate, and of course, the right to refuse. And finally, we'll bring it all together to see how your rights and your responsibilities work hand in hand to build a safer workplace for everybody.
Now, before we start pulling out the tools, we've got to understand the system they work in. It's called the internal responsibility system. And the main idea is actually pretty simple. Everyone at the workplace, from the person who just started yesterday all the way up to the CEO, is responsible for health and safety.
And let's be crystal clear about this. This is not just some optional company policy. These rights are the law. They're written right into Alberta's Occupational Health and Safety Act, regulation, and code. These are the documents that set the absolute minimum standards for protecting workers, and they form the very backbone of your right to a safe workplace.
All right, let's pop open that toolkit and grab our very first tool. This one is all about having the right information and being aware. It's your fundamental right to know. So, here's the bottom line. You can't be expected to work safely if you don't even know what the dangers are. This right means your employer has to tell you about any and all hazards on your job site, both the ones that are there right now and the ones that could pop up. Because honestly, nobody should ever have to walk into a dangerous situation completely blind. And the law gets really specific about what this means. Your employer has a duty to tell you about everything, from the general hazards on site to exactly how to operate a specific piece of machinery safely. It also includes training on hazardous materials, how to use your PPE correctly, and yep, you guessed it, they even have to make you aware of your own rights, kind of like what we're doing right now.
Okay, on to our second tool. Knowing the risks is one thing, but having a voice in your own safety? That's the next level. This is your right to participate.
You see, this right moves you from just being a passive receiver of information to being an active player in your own safety. You have a legal right to be part of the conversation, to ask questions, to raise concerns, and to be involved when decisions are being made that affect your health. It's all about creating that sense of shared responsibility.
So, how does this participation actually work day to day? Well, the law creates a pretty clear structure. For smaller workplaces, we're talking to those with between 5 and 19 workers, the employer has to pick a designated health and safety representative. That person is the go-to for safety stuff. Now, what happens when the workplace gets a little bigger? Well, once you hit that magic number of 20 or more workers, things get a bit more formal. At that point, the employer is legally required to create a joint health and safety committee. This committee brings people from both the worker side and the management side to the same table to work on safety issues together. So, just to recap real quick, for smaller workplaces, you've got a single health and safety rep. For larger ones, it's a full-blown committee with both workers and management. But the goal is exactly the same, making sure that everyone's voice can be heard when it comes to workplace safety. And that brings us to our third and final tool in the kit. And you could argue this is the most powerful one you have when you're staring down an immediate threat. It's the right to refuse dangerous work. So, what gives you the legal green light to use this incredibly powerful tool? The magic phrase here is undue hazard. And let's be clear, we're not talking about something minor. An undue hazard is defined as a serious and immediate threat to your health and safety. It has to be something you personally see or experience that poses a real, imminent risk. So if you believe you are facing one of these undue hazards, the process is super clear, and it starts with 2 critical steps. Step 1, just stop. Do not do the task. Step 2, report it right away. You have to tell your supervisor or your employer that you're refusing to do the work.
and you need to clearly explain exactly why. Okay, so you've refused the work. Now what? The ball is officially in your employer's court. They are legally obligated to investigate the problem immediately, take action to get rid of the danger, and then give you a written report documenting the whole thing. And this leads us to probably one of the most important points of all. You are protected by law when you use these rights. You cannot be punished for doing so. This protection from what's called reprisal or disciplinary action, that's what gives these rights some real teeth. Let's just let that sink in for a second. The legislation is not ambiguous at all. It doesn't matter if you're asking for information, participating in a safety meeting, or refusing dangerous work. Your employer is legally forbidden from taking, or even threatening to take, any disciplinary action against you for it. Period.
So, we've gone through the 3 powerful tools you have in your safety toolkit. But, it's not a one-way street. With these great rights also come some pretty important responsibilities.
And this takes us right back to where we started, with that idea of the internal responsibility system. See, real workplace safety isn't just about what your employer has to do. It's a team sport. It's about everyone playing their part to keep each other safe.
And your duties are actually pretty straightforward. A lot of it is common sense, right? Work safely, follow the rules, use your safety gear. But it's also about being proactive, about reporting hazards when you spot them, cooperating on safety matters, and helping to create a respectful workplace for everyone.
So we're going to end with this question for you. Knowing that you have the right to know, the right to participate, and the right to refuse is incredibly powerful. But just knowing is only the first step. The real question is, how are you going to use these tools? Not just to protect yourself, but to actively help build a stronger, safer culture for every single person you work with.